Join me as I dive into the world of addiction stories today and challenge myself to uncover what's really going wrong. Addiction stories have been around for centuries, captivating audiences with tales of struggle, triumph, and heartbreak. But over time, these stories have evolved, and in today's context, it's essential to ask, what's wrong with addiction stories today? Are we doing justice to the complexities of addiction, or are we perpetuating harmful stereotypes and misconceptions? The relevance of this discussion lies in the power of storytelling to shape our understanding of the world. When we hear or read a compelling story, it can evoke empathy, spark conversations, and even influence our attitudes towards a particular issue. But when it comes to addiction, the stakes are high and the consequences of misrepresentation can be devastating. As we navigate the complex landscape of addiction narratives, it's crucial to recognize that the stories we tell have a profound impact on how we perceive addiction and those affected by it. By examining the evolution of addiction stories, we can better understand what's going wrong and how we can do better. In many addiction narratives, we see a pattern of oversimplification, where the complexities of addiction are reduced to a single dramatic moment or a simplistic bad habit. This not only does a disservice to those struggling with addiction, but also creates unrealistic expectations for recovery and perpetuates harmful stigmas. Oversimplification is just one of the many pitfalls in addiction narratives. Another common issue is glamorization, where addiction is romanticized as a rebellious or artistic endeavor. This can be particularly damaging, as it can lure vulnerable individuals into experimenting with substances or behaviors, thinking it's a cool or edgy thing to do. We've all seen it, the tortured artist trope, where addiction is portrayed as a source of creative inspiration or a symbol of nonconformity. But the reality is far from it. Addiction is a serious health issue that destroys lives, relationships, and communities. Glamorization also perpetuates the dangerous myth that addiction is a moral failing or a personal weakness. This stigma can prevent people from seeking help, fearing judgment or rejection from their loved ones or society at large. The consequences of these pitfalls are far-reaching, affecting public perception policymaking and even the way we approach treatment and recovery. By perpetuating harmful stereotypes and misconceptions, we're not only doing a disservice to those affected by addiction but also hindering our ability to address the issue effectively. Let's take a closer look at some addiction stories in media and literature. We see a range of portrayals, from the harsh realism of shows like Breaking Bad to the romanticized tales of addiction in movies like Trainspotting. While some stories might be well-intentioned, many fall short of accurately capturing the complexities of addiction. One of the most significant issues with addiction stories in media is that they often prioritize drama over realism. This can lead to sensationalized portrayals that focus on the thrill of addiction rather than the harsh realities of it. In literature, we see a similar trend. Many books about addiction are written from a place of voyeuristic curiosity, capitalizing on the sensational aspects of addiction, rather than delving into the deeper emotional and psychological struggles of the characters. These misrepresentations have real-world consequences. They can create unrealistic expectations about recovery, perpetuate harmful stigmas, and even influence public policy. By examining the ways in which addiction is portrayed in media and literature, we can better understand how these stories shape our perceptions and attitudes towards addiction. One powerful example that comes to mind is the story of Amy Winehouse. Her struggles with addiction were well documented, and her death was a tragic reminder of the devastating consequences of addiction. But what's often overlooked is the role that the media played in her story. The way the media portrayed Amy Winehouse's struggles with addiction was often sensationalized and voyeuristic, focusing on the spectacle of her addiction rather than the underlying issues that drove it. This not only did a disservice to her as a person, but also perpetuated harmful stereotypes about addiction and those affected by it. By examining Amy Winehouse's story, we can see the consequences of oversimplification and glamorization. We can also see the importance of telling addiction stories that are authentic, nuanced, and compassionate. In conclusion, the flaws in current addiction stories have far-reaching implications for society. By perpetuating harmful stereotypes and misconceptions, we're not only doing a disservice to those affected by addiction, but also hindering our ability to address the issue effectively. Let's recap the main points we've discussed today. We've explored the evolution of addiction stories, identified the common pitfalls in addiction narratives, and examined the consequences of misrepresentation. We've also looked at some powerful examples that illustrate the importance of telling addiction stories that are authentic, nuanced, and compassionate. If you've been impacted by addiction or have a story to share, please leave a comment below. Your experiences and insights are invaluable in helping us create a more compassionate and nuanced understanding of addiction. And if you're interested in exploring this topic further, be sure to check out our video on the importance of empathy in addiction narratives. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.